It's all very measured. Then he goes and shakes everybody's hand.
Yeah, he's a very calm character. I'm sure he can throw a few flip-flops around if he wants to. But, you know, he seems calm. He'll watch the game back and he'll analyse it, obviously. And but as Jamie said, you know, they'll got a big game on Tuesday now, and then, like I say, Wolves coming up, and they'll keep their eye on the teams below them. But these are certainly games that they'll be looking at winning more often, obviously.
Did you both feel that it was, and the stats kind of bear this out, don't they? You know, 57% possession, but not that many shots. So it was a controlled performance without being, you know, on the front foot.
Yeah.
Entertaining.
For Brentford, you mean? Or
For Brentford.
For Brentford, yeah, I think so. And he made, you know, we talk about the substitutions you bring on. The two substitutes that come on have an influence in the goal. Damsgaard's pass, and obviously Rico Henry crosses the ball for Jordan Henderson. So in that respect, that was a positive for them. But it's just trying to hang on to those 3 points. And especially here, you know, where it's been a fortress. Can we get across the line? Can we make sure we hang on to those points? Everything then changes. You flip it on the other way. But no, I think it was... You know, after we spoke about the result last week against Tottenham, that can damage you sometimes, and you try to freshen up, you bring in players, but the fact is they've not lost, and it still keeps that run going here, which has been obviously so impressive. And I'm sure he'll try to take the positives out of it, but this week is going to be huge for them.
Yeah, I think Brentford played a lot in front of Leeds. I think they were quite happy to let Brentford have the ball. You know, it was pretty flat a lot of the time in the game. The crowd weren't getting up. They didn't play balls in behind like they did. Maybe Sharda missing. Maybe that, you know, one of the reasons why there wasn't and runs in behind as much. Obviously, the goal come from Rico coming on and actually making one of them runs in behind and getting in behind the back four, 5 at the time. I'm lost.
4 or 5, yeah.
Yeah. So
4 or 5,
anyway, yeah, just getting in behind them and actually creating a bit of tempo, which was lacking a lot of time in the game.
But as you say, it came from a run in behind, which they did very rarely. And also, when we're talking about substitutions, you know, in praise of Keith Andrews, his substitutions affected this goal.
Yeah, it certainly did. Yeah, Rico coming on. He's not had a lot of football recently, but yeah, he's lightning quick and using that pace in behind that maybe Brentford were missing on a day like today. Getting in behind that back line of theirs and squaring a ball across, and I think we're giving that goal to Henderson, aren't we?
Match Centre has given it to Henderson. Yeah. It's a Jordan Henderson goal, and his first goal in English football for over 4 years.
He was very good today. I thought Ampadu for Leeds and Jordan Henderson for Brentford, best 2 players on the pitch. I thought they controlled the game really well, and you know, that's a nice touch, obviously, for his friend. And it's not been easy, you know. But in terms of what he's brought to Brentford, he's been fantastic. What a signing. You know, you played with Norgard and the influence that he had as a captain, and to bring in Jordan Henderson, he's just been a revelation. He looks fitter than ever. His passing, everything that he's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, fully agree. I think he's really enjoyed his football here. So it's a great club to play at, and yeah, he's looking fit and sharp, and he looks like he could play on for a lot longer than you know, many more years.
The Leeds goal scorer Dominic Calvert-Lewin has joined us in the studio. Thank you very much for coming up. Is that a point gained, or did you feel that 3 might have been there for the taking? How were you in the Leeds dressing room afterwards?
I think in the end it's a point gain, but I think 3 points were there for the taking, definitely. We hung in there first half, you know, we didn't really give them too much to go off. So second half we wanted to start on the front foot, and I thought that we did that. And then, you know, going a goal behind is frustrating, but I think in recent weeks we've shown good resilience, good character to come back into games.
We'll take you back to the previous games over the last month or so in a moment, but talk us through your goal, because the man next to you has just compared you to Michael Jordan in hang time, which, you know, you may want to take. That's fair praise.
It's pretty good praise, right? He doesn't want to be compared to him. But you do ever so well. You know, Ampadu keeps it alive for you, and then you find yourself at the back post. Talk us through your movement.
I think I found it tough, to be fair. You know, the 2 centre-halves, they were physical, and I could tell that they had instructions that when the ball was wide to get hold of me and stop me from jumping. So I tried to pick up my position offside early and come on the blind side, and thankfully Willie put a great ball in, and I was there I didn't realise I jumped that high.
There you go, Air Jordan.
But I think when you're in the moment, you're kind of just watching the ball come in, and, you know, I suppose my bread and butter, really.
Do your eyes light up when that cross comes in?
Kind of. I think everything slows down, and you just got to watch the ball and try and time it well and put the ball in the corner. You know, sometimes they go in, sometimes they don't, and today was a good one.
And when you sat down with us, you were saying, you know, now, because how everything is checked, it just increases what? The nerves for you? The doubt for you?
I suppose it does
Is
have
it weird?
that seed of doubt. Yeah, it seems like every goal you score gets checked these days, and I think when you're playing so high on the line and you're playing on the shoulders, it's difficult, and there's always a chance, isn't there, that it could be offside. So today I got the run of play.
From that angle, from a cross like that, and when a centre forward goes up like he goes up, there's very little, I'm guessing, you can do as a defender there if he's in between the two of you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you've been probably looking at Sepp Vandenberg's position as well. You've kind of come on that blind side of Chris Ajer, and yeah, you've got your space there to do what you do best, you know. And when I think about you, I think they're the goals that I think of, you know, in the air and that stuff, having played against you over the years and that stuff. But it's great to see you back amongst the goals and playing well as well, mate. So.
I said to Ben, how do you stop that when someone has such a good, you know, good aerial ability? So you try to just battle up against him, you try to stop it, but once you get up early, it is almost impossible for anybody to stop you there.
I think when I do pick up a good position and I get blindsided the centre half, it is difficult for, you know, centre halves to stop it. So that's why I think we've had enough battles over the years.
He said he's kicked you a few times.
Yeah, getting hold of me and trying to stop me from doing that. So one thing I think is when you do pick up as a position, you know, starting offside, it's difficult to defend, isn't it? Because you don't know if to drop and go with me, and then you can come round the front. So it's always a game of cat and mouse, really. But I do back myself if I do get on the shoulder to, you know, beat my man in the air.
You look like you relish the physical battle out there today, and you have done in recent weeks. So how are you feeling?
Feeling good. I think, you know, the performances are speaking for themselves at the moment. Feeling good, feeling healthy. I think this is the fittest I've been in a long time, and I've worked extremely hard to get in this position. You know, when you get a certain narrative around you and you're tarred with a certain brush, it's quite hard to shake it. So for me, it was always about being mentally tough and hanging in there at certain points and just step by step, day by day, and putting performances together. And, you know, all of a sudden the tide starts to turn and you start scoring goals, and that's the life of a centre forward.
But that narrative must be really hard because it affects you personally as an individual, obviously, but at the same time, you're trying to find a club as well, aren't you? So the narrative will swirl around teams who are looking at you, and you're having to try and convince them at the same time.
I suppose so, yeah, but it's all uncontrollables, and I think in football, as a player, you have to try and control the controllables. Yeah. And the moment you start letting too much of the external stuff bother you, that's when you can get yourself in a rut. But I keep my circle small, you know, my wife, my daughter, and my dad, and I think that keeps me grounded. And I just try and, I think as I've got older, more mature, stay more balanced and don't let so much of the outside stuff concern me and focus on what I can control on the pitch, and that's what I have been doing.
And that's confidence as well, Dominic. And trust in your body, I guess, comes from that as well, because you look like you're banging form, the goals are coming. Obviously, the odd tap in here and there, but that, when I think of you as a player, is vintage. When he headed it, we both went, you can't stop that. That's unplayable.
Yeah, you got to be in there to score them, haven't you? You know?
I was going to say, they do all count.
Listen, anyone, I could have scored that one. The one last week. They're the Chelsea one. They're the best ones, aren't they? They're the money makers.
Yeah.
But no, it's great to see you in form and feeling fit and healthy as well, because, you know, and obviously the chat is going to be 5 goals this season, the World Cup as well. Is there a little part of you that's looking at that as well?
I mean, it's always the goal is to play for your country and represent your country at a World Cup. But for me, my job is to do as best as possible for Leeds United, and that's what I came here to do. Score goals at club level and just play my best football. And like I said before, control the controllables, and the rest takes care of itself, doesn't it?
You as a group then, and as a team, how much did that second half at Manchester City, I know you went on to lose, but how much did that comeback change things for you as a group of players?
I think you'll know there's certain moments in seasons where there's turning points, and I think that second half was definitely a turning point for us going into that tough week. And I was saying amongst the group, like we're not defined by one game, but this is a very important week, and depending on how we do this week could determine how we do going into Christmas. And I think that performance against City in the second half definitely gave us the confidence to go into Chelsea believing that we can compete at this level. I think we started the season well and then had a little wobble and we found our feet. But, you know, we have across the board good players, top players that can compete at this level, and it's about bringing it all together and ultimately performing on a match day and
It's weird, isn't it? Because people can look at a spell of fixtures and go, my God, they're a real tough, City, Chelsea, Liverpool as a really tough run. But they can also go the other way and galvanise you in terms of belief.
I think that's probably what's happened. And like I said before, I'm a man of balance, and I like to not get too high and not get too low. So, although it was a great week and people are singing our praises, it's important for us that this game today was a bigger game for us, because you've got to go and back it up. And if you can't win, don't lose. And we've come away with a point on the road, which I think we take it on the bus home and look forward to the next one.
And Ellen Road as well. I mean, I always remember playing there. It's a fortress. You get the crowd behind you. It's such a tough place for teams to go.
Yeah, and you have to use that in your favour. I think me as a new Leeds player, feeling that atmosphere, it's been incredible. The away fans travelling as well. It's an unbelievable fan base, and you definitely feel that as players. And away teams coming to Ellen Road, they're going to find it tough, because we've got us and the fans behind us, and it can be a hostile place to come and play.
Thank you very much for coming up to see us. You haven't even had a shower yet. Obviously, you're still in your kit. So.
And he's got you talk about throwing flip-flops. Sliders. We were talking about throwing things and that when you lose, because we had Keith Andrews in and they throw flip-flops. I was like, but in the old days, we used to throw sandwiches or plates, but now it's flip-flops.
Thank you very much for coming in.
Showing me.
Well done, mate.
Thank you. Dominic Calvert-Lewin with us. We will let you go.
Nice
there you go. Thank you. He also summed up the situation that Brentford find themselves in, which has been really, really good at home and strong at home, but needing to do a bit better on the road.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we spoke a little bit about Ellen Road as well for Leeds, similar, but yeah, Brentford home form very good, away form a lot to improve there, and how he goes about that, he'll have to have a look at maybe a changing formation or something like that when away from home. When we was here sort of last year, sometimes we'd go to a back five away from home, and we'd try and play a little bit more sort of on the counter attack a little bit. So I don't know whether that's something maybe he might look at, or
Did you do that because, and I don't know which opponents you did it against, but did you do it in the main because you felt you weren't going to be able to control away games like you would control home games?
Yeah, probably a little bit less control, but you can still be in control of a game without having possession of the ball, really. So I think more control out of possession. With your structure and how you set up, and obviously using the pace on the attack. We had Mbeumo, Wissa and Sharda, with three boys up front who can hit you on the break. So I think it was similar here now with Ouattara and Kevin as well. So maybe you might look at something along those lines. I don't know.
I think last year you struggled early in the season away from home, but I think that was a lot to do with the fixtures, because the easier fixtures come in the second half of the season. So this year...
They've had but this year they've had a lot of the top clubs at home.
Top clubs at home, so they've got some tough fixtures to come away. You've always got to find a way to get away wins. That's just natural, because if you're going to just rely on your home form all season, you have to be absolutely spot on. And the good thing for Keith is that they have been spot on at home, apart from that Manchester City game. And they've been really aggressive on the front foot. Good results. Today will feel obviously a bit of a disappointment for him, but I'm sure he just took that home form. Absolutely.
I think like you said then, aggressive on the front foot. I don't think they were that today. I think he'd be disappointed that he said it was an old school direct game, but I think he'd be disappointed that the Leeds defenders didn't have a bit more of a harder time with it up front. So yeah, I think more pressure and yeah.
He also mentioned, did he, that he wasn't happy with the structure when it came to them attacking. Do you think sometimes, I'm not necessarily talking about Brentford fans in general, but I thought actually watching Burnley-Fulham last night, which you were doing, is fans sometimes want a little bit less structure and just go for it.
A bit more chaos.
A bit more, a bit more chaos.
I mean, Thiago has been magnificent this season. Absolutely incredible. But I think Ben and I were quite... A couple of times, especially first half, the ball he wasn't getting hold of the ball. He wasn't winning that first contact, which made it a bit more difficult for his team. I felt second half he started to win the individual battles. They started then to get Ouattara into the game, and they sort of grew into it. And that's the disappointment for Keith, because we could have been sitting here if they win this game 1-0 and go, what another great home win for them. And they're the details. Nonto comes on, great cross, really good header, and all of a sudden you're sitting there thinking, right now we've got to find a way next week at Wolves. We've got to make sure we're better away from home. What is that structure? Ben's right. Do we start with a back three? Do we maybe change it? Who do we bring in? Obviously, Sharda, I think, was only one game ban, wasn't it? So he can play next week. That gives you a different proposition as well. But it was a tough one today for them, because it could have been such a different narrative that we're talking about.
Also, a League Cup quarter-final on Wednesday.
That's an easy one at Man City.
Manchester City. So actually, that's a big next two, isn't it? Manchester City away in the League Cup quarter-final, and then, as Jamie says, Wolves away in the league.
Yeah, and Kiefer want to go on a decent. I mean, it's been a decent run in the cup so far, but obviously it's a difficult game at City. But yeah, certainly one they can go and gain a bit of confidence. Hopefully, get a result, get through to the next round. Would be amazing for a club like this to get into a semi-final of a cup, and he'll certainly have his eye on trying to do that and accomplish that.
The difficult thing is, though, I don't know, how you manage the squad now, because it's such a tough game, and no manager ever wants to throw away an opportunity to get to semi-finals, cup finals. You always want that, especially for a club like Brentford. You know what the value of that, what it would mean to the whole club, but you've also got to think about the Premier League. So how he manages that team this week, midweek.
Do you start Jordan Henderson at Manchester City?
Well, that's the dilemma. He might think, you know what, and I would certainly think about it, because he's in such good form, but I know the bigger game is going to be against Wolves the weekend. You could have players like Yarmouk who want to be in the team. I thought, Janelt did well today. Jensen might be rested to bring in Damsgaard, and he'll probably manage that. I mean, look at that pass, the old daisy cutter, look. Just cuts the grass beautifully. And, no, I thought he was magnificent. But, yeah, you might think about resting him in midweek. I don't know if you agree with that, Ben.
I think potentially, yeah, you probably will. You look at the bench as well. You've got Yarmouk, you've got Onyeka, who'll probably get a run out. Damsgaard, who didn't play enough today, as much today, might get a run
will
out.
probably play as well, won't he?
But they haven't got massive amounts of strength in depth on there. There's a lot of young lads there as well on the bench. So, to try and change it around a little bit, but also getting the result is a difficult balance to.
Yeah, Rico Henry as well, probably.
Yeah, Rico
as well.
Jamie mentioned it earlier about Norgard moving on to Arsenal. Obviously, you were here with Norgard. When you heard that Norgard was moving on, did you worry about who would replace not only that role in midfield, but that sort of stature around the club? And has he allayed those fears, if you were worried?
100%, yeah. A personality like Norgard leaving the club was huge. His drive every day in training, getting the lads up on match days. He was around it. He was a really good captain, to be fair to him, and similar mould as Jordan for sure. And he's stepped in, enjoying his football. Looks like he's fit and firing week in, week out. So he's stepped into that role massively, and he does all the ugly stuff that Norgard did really well for us in front of us. And as a defender for someone like that in front of you is magnificent.
I like what Keith said as well, which is an absolute fact. We've been good for him as well.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we don't think about it. They think, he has been brilliant, but for Jordan to come, we didn't know what was next in his career. It didn't work out for him at Ajax, but he's come here. And he's been a revelation. I can imagine, I always think about, what senior players do to the young players in and around the club, because if you're a young player there, you'll just watch everything that Jordan does, how he lives his life, what he eats for pre-match, what he has on a daily basis, how he trains, is he in the gym, how he talks. Because remember, during COVID, we learnt so much about him, because when the one player you could always hear speaking, in the mic was him.
Yeah.
And he had such an influence on that Liverpool side. And for Brentford to just have that little sample of what he brings. And he still looks as fit as ever. I don't know what his numbers are, running stats, but I'm sure he ran as much as anyone else on that pitch today.
Going in the right direction in terms of the football you're seeing?
I think they've got a way of playing that suits them at the moment. We're talking about a system when it comes to Leeds at the moment. They'll turn around and say, look, the back three works, but the goals come from a back four today. So the goal came from a back four. I think there's a lot of positives. I think the team, the way they're playing, certainly at home. The manager, it felt every single week we were talking about, is he going to keep his job, is he not? I think the fact they've had some good results will just dampen that noise down as well, which is exactly what he needs. I think it suits the players as well. The last thing you want as a player is your manager to be spoken about, is he going to get the sack next week? They need that continuity. They need to decide, is he the right man to take him forward and keep him in the Premier League? If you think he is, you've got to stick with him. They're right in the race. I think if you look at the other sides at the bottom, it's been difficult, but I thought his interview was very balanced there. Look at Bournemouth a few weeks ago. I think they went into second place at one point. And now they're looking they're looking over their shoulder, looking over the likes of Leeds and West Ham if they don't get any results soon. And that's how this league is so unforgiving. And he's been well aware of that. Their season turned, and as Dominic Calvert-Lewin said himself, and a loss when they went to Man City, but they found the system, way of playing, a bit more energy. And since then, they've certainly improved, Ben.
Yeah, there's no underestimating how valuable Dominic will be for this team. When you're down there battling, I've been there myself, you're scrapping, you've got a player that can put the ball in the back of the net is absolutely massive, and they want to keep him going on this run of form that he is and keep him fit and firing. And if they can do that, they've got every chance of.
Do you sense that some of I mean, he most definitely is, that some of the others are sort of settling in now to Leeds?
Yeah, I think so. You look at some of the new signings, you know, in that midfield there that they played today. Obviously, Ampadu's in there playing. Stack's is a really good player. You know, strong and powerful. Likes to get forward. Took his goal last week really well. Looks a really good player. And they look solid. They look solid and 3 games unbeaten now, getting momentum, a little bit of form, if not performance-wise, but results-wise, which is always important.
And impact players from the bench. We all talk about it. The game is now evolving all the time. Talk about players that can come on and make a difference. With Nonto coming on, he wins the penalty last week against Liverpool. Massive impact. Today, that bit of quality with a cross when you needed it most. And I always think with teams, if you've got those players that can give you that little spark, 10, 15 minutes to go in the game, makes a big difference. Willie Nonto won't want to be known as a sub. I saw Dominic Calvert-Lewin going up to him after, and it was almost like probably a little bit of frustration, but you need to keep everyone involved. And if it means bit parts at times, so be it, because he makes a difference. And sometimes the game gets a little bit slower. There's a bit more space on the pitch for players like him to make a difference.
Well, he came off the bench last week and won a penalty as well, so he's done that again this week. And he's impacting it when he's coming on. So,
but it's hard, I suppose, for players. You can only go game to game, can't you? Particularly when it's as tight as it is, as Jamie says. You know, 3 wins and you could be up in 6, or 3 defeats, you could be in 17.
No, absolutely, yeah. Constantly looking at the table, where you're going to get the points from. You spoke about the run of games that they've had, the Chelseas, the Liverpools and Cities all in a row. They've been looking at that, thinking where we're going to end up after this run of games, but they've come out the other side of it, and now they're going to look forward, I'm sure, continue this unbeaten run that they're on.
When Dominic came in, first thing he said, how did West Ham get on? He'd obviously rush up here, and I think that tells you where their mindset is. It's almost that mini league right now. They've just got getting every point they can is going to be vital.
Okay, let's get into it. We've been looking at this recent fixture analysis, and there's a lot to unpack here.
There really is. We're talking about player psychology, some really tough tactical calls from the coaches.
And our mission really is to give you the shortcut. What were the key moments, the bits of insight that really decided this game?
I think you have to start with Dominic Calvert-Lewin. His immediate reaction after the match, saying it was a point gained.
But you could tell he felt 3 points were there for the taking.
Exactly. That honesty, that little bit of frustration, it just sets the tone for everything. It shows you where their confidence is at.
So let's talk about the mechanics of that. His goal, that header, was just stunning.
It was. And even more so when you hear him describe how tough it was. I mean, he was up against physical center backs who had one job.
Just stop him from jumping.
Right. Specific instructions.
Yeah.
So how do you beat that when a defender's sole purpose is to physically stop you?
It can't just be about being stronger.
It's not. It's about being smarter. His whole strategy was to exploit their focus. He'd deliberately drift into an offside position early on.
Oh, interesting. Just to get out of their line of sight.
For a split second, yeah. And then he times his run perfectly, comes in on the blind side of Chris Surier, and meets that fantastic cross from Willie Nonto.
So it's less about winning the jump and more about making sure the defender can't even compete for it.
Precisely. That's where you get that hang time everyone was talking about, comparing him to Michael Jordan.
He calls it a game of cat and mouse once he gets on the defender's shoulder.
And that's not just physical. It's a mental drain on the defender for 90 minutes. It connects directly to his whole psychological approach.
The controllables.
Yes, that's the real key here. He says, this is the fittest I've been in a long time. And to protect that, he keeps his circle really small.
Just his wife, daughter, and his dad.
He's trying to filter out the external narrative, all the noise that surrounds a player, especially a striker. That clarity is what lets you execute under pressure.
Fascinating. So while DCL is all about internal control, Brentford seems to be battling some structural paradoxes.
A complete paradox. They had 57% possession, which on paper sounds like they dominated.
But it didn't feel like that.
Not at all. The sources called it controlled without being on the front foot. Lots of passing, but it was all a bit slow, a bit safe, no real penetration.
Until the substitutions.
Yeah.
They made a huge difference.
An immediate impact. You had Damsgaard's pass and Rico Henry's cross, which sets up the goal.
And the goal itself is a bit of a strange one, isn't it? Given to Jordan Henderson.
Yeah, his first in English football for over 4 years, which is a wild stat. It took a big deflection on the way in.
But you can't deny his overall influence has been huge for them.
Oh, absolutely. The reports say he's been a revelation. He's really stepped into that crucial midfield role that Norgard used to have, doing all the important ugly stuff.
But the big issue remains. They're a fortress at home, but their away form is inconsistent.
It's their biggest tactical problem, and it's leading to a debate about whether they should switch to a back five for away games.
The idea being to get more control out of possession.
Exactly. Seed the ball, maybe, but control the space, pack the defense, stay solid, and then use your pace on the counterattack.
And they might need to figure that out quickly, because they have a brutal 2-game stretch coming up.
A brutal stretch. The League Cup quarterfinal at Manchester City, then a massive league game against Wolves.
That's the definition of a tactical dilemma, isn't it? Do you rest a key player like Henderson for the league match you desperately need a result from?
It's a huge decision, and it sends a message to the whole squad about what your priority is for the season. A cup run or survival.
It really brings it back to DCL's mindset, not getting too high and not too low. That's the key.
For these teams, it's all about what he called the mini-league. That's their entire world.
It's so telling that the first thing he asked after the final whistle was, how did West Ham get on?
The survival mentality just takes over everything else.
So a final thought for you to chew on. We see how crucial DCL's fitness and form are. The question is, will his intense focus on controlling the controllables be enough to get him to that goal he admits is always there?
Representing his country at the World Cup.
Can he do it? Something to think about until our next deep dive.